previous episode. Nights in Whispering Pines have a way of slowing you down. The wind moves through the pines like a quiet sigh, brushing old porch roofs and sliding along streets so empty you can hear your own thoughts. Under honey-colored streetlights, the asphalt shines as if it remembers every tire that ever passed. Somewhere inside a house, a clock keeps patient time. In a town this calm, you don't need a scream to feel uneasy. One small detail, one wrong note can suddenly stand out, sharp and undeniable. At the end of the road, past a tight bend, sits a house people stopped talking about years ago. White paint curls away from the boards. The fence leans like tired shoulders. Weeds climb the steps, claiming what no one tends. In daylight, it's only a sad old place, but after midnight, it feels different, like a mouth that never quite closes. Its windows stay dark, its rooms silent, and yet it holds the kind of quiet that makes you wonder what was left behind and what might still be waiting. 3 in the morning is an hour that doesn't belong to anyone. It's not bedtime, and it's not morning. It's the thin slice in between, when the world is still and memories wander. The ticking of a kitchen clock sounds louder, more honest. Even your breathing seems to echo. Arthur Hale has lived long enough to know that strange things prefer this hour because fewer eyes are open and fewer questions get asked. And tonight, at exactly 3, something in Whispering Pines decides to speak. The light doesn't arrive with drama. No door creaks, no footsteps cross the porch. 1 second, the second-floor window is black, and the next, it glows, a soft, warm yellow, like a desk lamp someone turned on to read. Dust drifts through the beam, floating slowly, as if time itself has been stirred awake. From the street, the house looks almost lived in for a moment. Not welcoming, not alive, just present, holding that glow like a steady breath in the dark, refusing to explain itself. Then, just as calmly, it's gone. The window returns to darkness, deep and clean, like the light never happened. The street stays empty. No engine fades into the distance. No voice calls out. Only wind touches the pine branches, and a loose sign down the block taps once, twice, softly. That's what unsettles you, how the night offers no proof. In Whispering Pines, the scariest things aren't always what you see. Sometimes it's what you can't confirm at all, even when the sun comes up. By morning, the story moves through town the way weather does. In the café beside the post office, older neighbors cradle warm mugs and speak in careful tones. It happened again, right at 3. That house hasn't had power in years. They don't raise their voices. They don't laugh either. Each sentence lands like a small puzzle piece placed on the table and left there. In a small town, mystery isn't shouted. It's passed gently, hand to hand, like a fragile keepsake nobody wants to drop. Arthur Hale hears it with the kind of silence that comes from experience. 72 now, retired, the shoulders a little lower, the hands a little slower, but the eyes still trained to notice what others miss. His home is modest, creaking floorboards, a vintage radio, a cup set exactly where it belongs. Arthur promised himself a quieter life, no more files, no more late-night calls. Yet, when he hears the words, exactly 3 a.m., something old inside him tightens like a knot that never fully came undone. He doesn't rush. He opens a drawer and takes out a worn notebook with frayed corners and a short pencil he never bothered to replace. Habit, the old police habit that says the smallest details are rarely accidental. On the first line, he writes, "Abandoned house, end of cedar." Then, second floor window. Then, 3 a.m., a few minutes. He pauses, staring at the graphite as if it might answer back. In the quiet, a second question forms, heavier than the first. Who would keep an appointment with an empty house? That afternoon, Arthur walks his usual route past wide porches and rocking chairs that creak in the breeze. He doesn't march straight to the abandoned house. He stops at a distance, like a man standing near a memory he isn't ready to touch. The window is dark again, ordinary, lifeless, but the facts don't fit. The power was cut off years ago. Arthur lets the two thoughts collide and feels the small, empty space they leave behind. He knows, without admitting it, that he'll be awake tonight, listening for what repeats. Before dusk fully fades, Arthur visits Edith's porch. Edith is the kind of neighbor who watches the street the way some folks read the morning paper, quietly, faithfully, every day. Her voice is low. "Mr. Hale, I'm not imagining it. 3 nights now, always 3 o'clock. The light comes on, then it goes out." Arthur asks only what matters. "Did you hear a car? Did you see anyone?" Edith shakes her head, and the certainty in that simple gesture makes the story feel less like gossip and more like a warning meant for him. Night settles in, and Arthur dims his own lights so his eyes can learn the dark. He slips on a heavier coat, pours warm tea, and stands behind a thin curtain. Not like a man hunting trouble, more like a man listening to his town, waiting for the wrong note to repeat. Outside, Whispering Pines is so quiet he can hear the wind find every crack in the window frame. An insect taps the glass once, then disappears. Time stretches, and in that stretch, old cases, old mistakes have room to breathe again, right inside his chest. As the hour approaches, Arthur doesn't keep checking the clock. He feels the silence shift, as if the whole street is holding its breath. The road remains empty, no footsteps, no engines, only long shadows from the streetlights and the slow sway of pine branches. Arthur blinks, steady and patient, the way he used to when he waited for a suspect to make one wrong move. Inside his head, he makes a quiet bargain. If this is coincidence, it ends tonight. If it isn't, he needs to know why and who started it. Right on time, the window blooms with warm light again. Not early, not late, exact. That precision sends a cool thread up Arthur's spine. Not fear, but recognition. Dust drifts through the glow like powdered years. Arthur hears the faint scrape of his pencil against the notebook and writes, "Repeat, on the hour." Then he stops because the light seems to hold steady, as if it's watching him write. In a town that runs on routine, a pattern like this feels less like an accident and more like a message waiting to be read. A drawer of memory opens. 1972, a disappearance the town tried to fold away like an old newspaper, read, then hidden, then forgotten. Arthur remembers yellowed statements and shaky voices, and one line he underlined once and later dismissed. "I saw a light in the empty house late at night." Back then, he believed every mystery had a clean explanation. He filed that line under confusion, fear, mistake. Now the same light returns, and the same question rises. What if that was the clue he ignored all along? The light stays on longer this time,
Or maybe it only feels longer because Arthur is watching. Then, near the curtain, a shape forms, a thin silhouette behind dusty fabric. No face, no movement, just the outline of someone who shouldn't be there. Arthur doesn't step outside. He doesn't call out. He knows truth can retreat if you startle it. The shape lingers for a few slow breaths, then slips back into darkness. Arthur's grip tightens on the notebook as one thought lands, heavy and clear. Who is meeting this town at 3 in the morning?
You're listening to Midnight Action Stories, thrilling crime tales after dark. If you enjoy these late-night missions, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, and drop your questions or theories in the comments below. Daylight doesn't erase the night, it just makes everything look kinder. Arthur sits at his kitchen window with warm tea and an open notebook, trying to talk himself into simple explanations. But 3 a.m. keeps tapping at his mind, soft and persistent. In a small town, repeated things are rarely accidents, and Arthur knows that if the light is real, then the reason behind it is real too. Today, he isn't chasing drama, he's chasing the smallest truth, because small truths are the ones that lead to larger doors. At the cafe near the post office, people speak the way older towns do, carefully, politely, around the edges. Arthur listens as details drift across the table. It happened on a rainy night, no car was seen, no footsteps heard, none of it proves anything, but together it sketches a faint outline of intent. In Whispering Pines, news doesn't live in headlines, it lives in pauses, in lowered voices, in the way someone looks away before finishing a sentence. Arthur has always trusted that kind of hesitation. It usually means something real is underneath. Arthur walks home past porches and rocking chairs, past bird feeders and mailboxes with fading numbers. The morning smells like wet leaves and fresh bread, ordinary life, harmless and familiar. He stops just long enough to see the abandoned house in the distance. In sunlight, it looks smaller, almost pitiful, and that's what makes the midnight glow feel even more wrong. He writes, "Witnesses confirm, 3 nights," and underlines the number. Not because it's dramatic, but because repetition is a language, and someone, somewhere, is speaking it. Arthur calls the local utility office with a calm, neighborly tone. The woman on the line sounds bored until he gives the address. Then there's a tiny pause, a quiet shift. "Disconnected for years," she says. "No meter, no billing, no active service." Arthur thanks her and sets the receiver down gently. No power means no simple accident. That light wasn't supposed to exist, and that realization doesn't scare him, it sharpens him, like hearing a lock click open by itself in a hallway you thought was sealed. Frank Dobbins, retired electrician, meets Arthur in a garage that smells of dry wood and machine oil. Frank studies the address and shakes his head slowly. "If it's lighting up, it's not the grid," he says, explaining cut lines and dead connections in patient detail. "Could be a small generator, could be batteries." Then he adds the part that matters most. Somebody would have to set that up and come back to it. Arthur nods, because nothing about this feels accidental. It feels maintained, like a quiet ritual someone refuses to abandon. In the early afternoon, Arthur parks a block away and approaches from the back, moving like a man simply stretching his legs. The yard is overgrown, the fence damp, the ground still soft from rain. From the front, the place looks forgotten, but Arthur knows fronts are what people use to mislead you. He walks slowly, eyes down, looking for the details no one thinks to name. A broken twig at hand height, a patch of disturbed soil, a small bend in the grass. Big secrets don't always shout. Sometimes they begin as a quiet footprint. Behind the house, Arthur sees it, a narrow line where the grass has been pressed down, as if someone walked the same route more than once. It's subtle, but it's real. He crouches and touches the damp blades. The flattening is fresh, recent. He straightens and looks toward the back door, and the house changes shape in his mind. It doesn't feel abandoned anymore. It feels managed, kept quiet on purpose by someone who doesn't want to be noticed. That's when a cool unease settles in. Not panic, just the certainty that someone has been here and will be here again. Arthur doesn't test the door. He stands close and listens, as if the house might betray itself with a breath. The inside stays silent, but the frame tells a different story. Near the latch, thin scratches mark the paint, newer than the rest, too deliberate to be weather, the kind of marks left by a careful hand opening the same door again and again. Arthur writes, "Rear access, used," and beneath it, smaller, "careful." He isn't sure why the word comes so easily. Then he realizes, this isn't a prank, this is discipline.
At the fence corner, one board looks slightly cleaner than the others, handled. Arthur presses it gently. It shifts, then rests back in place. He doesn't pry. People who hide things often check on them. Instead, he studies the ground. The soil holds faint impressions, light steps, not heavy boots. Whoever came here walked like they were trying not to disturb the earth itself. Arthur exhales slowly. The town's calm feels less like safety now and more like cover, a curtain someone is using to move unseen. Arthur goes to the library, where the air always smells like paper and time. Marjorie, the librarian, recognizes him and lowers her voice without being asked. He requests property records and old maps. She brings a thick folder, yellowed and worn at the edges, and says, "That house changed hands twice after '72. The number lands in Arthur's chest like a stone dropped into still water. 1972, the year he never truly set down. He keeps his face calm, but something inside him shifts. The past isn't drifting behind him anymore, it's moving alongside him. They sit under warm lamps at a long wooden table. Arthur reads names, dates, signatures, then a small note catches his eye, unusual wiring modifications. Another line mentions a basement access sealed by the county after safety concerns. He reads it twice, slow and careful. Basements in old towns are like memory, dark, layered, and easy to avoid until something forces you down the steps. He closes the folder gently, as if closing a door. But inside him, another door has already opened a crack, and the air coming through it feels cold and familiar. Back home, Arthur spreads the map beside his notebook. A faint service path runs behind the lots, an old route most people have forgotten. He traces it with one finger and suddenly remembers a witness statement from 1972. Someone was moving behind the houses. Back then it sounded like fear. Now it sounds like direction. Arthur circles a few points, not rushing to conclusions. At his age, he knows truth rarely arrives like thunder. It arrives like a whisper, repeating itself until you finally stop pretending you didn't hear it. Near dusk, Arthur returns to Edith's porch. She offers him a cookie from an old tin, as if sweetness makes hard things easier to say. Arthur asks quietly, almost casually, if she ever heard a sound. Edith thinks, then nods. "A click," she says. Not a voice, just a click, like a switch. Arthur keeps his face steady, but his pulse shifts. A click means a hand means intention. Edith studies him and says softly, "You look like a man remembering something you wish you'd forgotten." Arthur doesn't argue. In Whispering Pines, some truths come back that way. That night, Arthur watches differently. He isn't only staring at the glowing window, he's scanning the whole house, the porch, the side yard, the shadows near the back. He notices what most people never notice, a silence that deepens, a breeze that changes direction, a leaf falling at the exact wrong moment. 2:58, 2:59, then 3. The window lights up on cue, like a promise kept. Arthur doesn't flinch, he listens. Because if someone turns on a light that shouldn't exist, there's always a sound, no matter how small. The glow holds steady, warm and stubborn, and then Arthur hears it, the tiniest click, quick and controlled. Not wind, not wood, mechanism. He writes "switch sound" in his notebook and circles it slowly, as if the words might vanish. Suddenly, the night isn't rumor anymore. It has a thin strand of proof. Arthur's gaze drifts toward the back fence, toward that flattened path hidden in darkness. He understands now. The power isn't in the wall. It's nearby, off-grid, hidden where only someone patient would find it. Before the town fully wakes, Arthur returns to the fence corner, moving like a man checking property lines. He presses the board again, and this time the gap reveals a small metal toggle, old-fashioned, not part of the house's original build. Arthur doesn't flip it. He studies the dust around it, the clean streaks where fingers have touched, recent, repeated. Whoever uses this does it with care, like tending a ritual. Arthur straightens and breathes in slowly. Someone has been coming here regularly, quietly, not to break in, not to steal, to keep something alive.
Arthur steps back and looks up at the second-floor window in daylight. It's painfully ordinary. Old glass, dusty curtain, nothing more. Yet now he knows the glow is real, powered by intention. The toggle could feed a hidden lamp, a battery line, a small rig aimed precisely at that window. Still, the question remains, why 3 a.m.? Why repeat it like church bells in the dark? Arthur doesn't chase answers with force anymore. He chases them with patience. And patience has a way of making secret keepers restless, especially when they realize someone is finally paying attention. Arthur returns to the library for old newspapers, letting the town's past speak in thin columns of faded ink. He finds a small 1972 item, an unconfirmed report of a light in an upstairs window at an unusual hour. Beneath it, a police note, "No evidence found." Arthur reads that line and feels a sting, like a quiet reprimand. He remembers being younger, busy, confident, believing what you can't see doesn't exist. He folds the paper carefully, almost tenderly. Maybe evidence wasn't missing. Maybe we simply didn't know where to look. And maybe someone has been waiting for him to learn that. Late afternoon brings a gray sky that hangs low over the pines. Arthur walks behind the house again, following the flattened path. This time he notices a faint smell, oil and damp paper, like something stored too long in a hidden place. Near the ground, he shifts a rotten plank. Something small slides out into the grass. Arthur freezes, listening, then bends down and picks it up slowly. A folded note, softened by time but not destroyed by it. He holds it the way you hold a letter from someone long gone, careful, respectful, as if it might change the air the moment it opens. Arthur unfolds the note. The pencil marks are thin, deliberate, and strangely calm. "Look up." 2 words, and it feels like a hand tilting his chin toward the truth. Not fear, recognition. Whoever wrote this understands how he thinks. They're offering small clues, letting him do the rest. Arthur looks from the window to the roofline, to the eaves, imagining what could be mounted high where nobody bothers to search. He whispers the words once, tasting them like a name he almost remembers. "Look up." And suddenly the town feels less like a place and more like a story telling itself. Arthur stays kneeling a moment longer, letting the message settle into his bones. Look up could mean the attic, the rafters, the frame of that window, something hidden above eye level, safe from casual glances. He slips the note into his notebook like a bookmark because he knows the chapter has changed. Then he rises slowly, joints protesting, and lifts his eyes to the second-floor frame. In daylight, it looks harmless, almost gentle, but Arthur no longer trusts harmless. He murmurs to himself, steady and certain. Tonight, he won't just wait for the light. He'll find where it comes from. Before night fully settles, Arthur sits at his kitchen table with the notebook open like a map of memory. The little note, "Look up," rests between pages, thin as paper but heavy as a warning. He doesn't rush. At 72, he doesn't chase truth with speed anymore. He follows it with patience and small questions. Tonight, he won't just watch the glow. He'll watch what holds that glow in place and what it's trying to point him toward. Arthur prepares the way an older man prepares for a walk, not a fight. A warm coat, a small flashlight, a pencil, and his worn notebook. In the hallway mirror, he catches his own face, lines like wood grain, eyes still sharp with the habits of his old badge. He doesn't want to return to the unfinished feeling of 1972. But unfinished things don't stay buried in small towns. They wait at a distance, turn on a light, and see if you're willing to step outside. Night settles over whispering pines like a thin quilt. Arthur steps onto the damp street and hears his shoes on the pavement, the pines whispering above him. Streetlights stretch his shadow forward until it looks like he's walking beside someone, perhaps a younger version of himself. He doesn't head straight for the house. He chooses a quiet spot where he can see the second-floor window without being seen. Arthur has learned something over the years. If you want the truth, sometimes you stand still long enough for it to show itself. As 3 o'clock approaches, Arthur feels less fear and more focus. He watches the abandoned house the way you study an old photograph, searching for the detail that was always there. 2:59, then 3. The upstairs window lights up, right on schedule. This time, Arthur doesn't stare into the glow. He looks above it, along the frame, the eaves, the roofline. "Look up," the note had said, and Arthur waits for the part that isn't the light to finally answer. In that warm glow, the old wood shows its truth. Arthur sees a small carving, 3 short tally marks cut into the window frame. Not new, not worn away, just waiting to be noticed. His pulse shifts, not from fear, but recognition. He has seen those marks before. In 1972, on a piece of evidence his team dismissed as meaningless scratches. Back then, he didn't understand. Now the carving feels like a quiet voice saying, "You noticed me once, you just didn't know what I meant." Arthur flips through old notes, pages softened by time. He remembers a smoky room, the town map spread wide, a witness's trembling voice describing a light in an empty house. Arthur was younger then, certain every mystery could be solved with enough data. He circled details and discarded them when they didn't fit. Standing in the quiet night now, he understands something older men learn too late. Some details aren't meant to solve the case immediately. They're meant to wait until the right person comes back with the right eyes. He moves carefully, following the flattened path behind the fence, the hidden route of whoever turns the light on. Beneath the glowing window, Arthur spots something that shouldn't be there, a small yellowed envelope taped neatly to the sill. Not hidden deep, not protected from discovery, placed like it was meant to be found. Arthur pauses to listen. The town sleeps, the wind whispers through pine needles, and that envelope rests there, calm and certain, like an invitation that's been waiting for him to accept. Arthur reaches out, then stops. On the envelope, the handwriting is clear. Arthur Hale, 1972 wasn't over. No stamp, no sender, just a sentence like a knock on the door. He swallows hard. He thought retirement and silence had closed that year, but someone else never allowed it to sleep. Arthur looks up at the glowing window, then back down at the envelope, feeling a thin, invisible thread connecting them. Whoever did this knows his name, knows his past, and knows exactly how to pull him forward. He opens it slowly. The paper rustle sounds loud in the stillness, as if the house itself is listening. Inside, there's no long letter, only a torn piece of photograph, edges jagged,
the image aged to a soft yellow. Arthur holds it closer to the spill of window light. It feels like holding a piece of time someone kept in a drawer for 50 years. No explanation, just a fragment. But for Arthur, a fragment is enough. The past doesn't need a full sentence to speak. Sometimes it only needs one missing piece to start moving again.
The photo shows a street sign in Whispering Pines, one everyone passes without looking anymore. Near it, the blurred shape of a woman, her face cut away by the tear. And behind her, half in shadow, stands a figure in a blue coat, only a shoulder, a collar line, a presence too close to be coincidence. Arthur's throat tightens, not because he recognizes the face, he can't, but because he recognizes the stance, the way a watcher stands close enough to control, far enough to deny. In that instant, the town feels less like home and more like a stage where someone has been waiting in the wings. Arthur looks up from the photo and scans the street. Still empty, still quiet, but now it all feels arranged. A metal sign down the block taps softly in the wind, thin as a string on an instrument. Arthur slides the photo into his notebook, tucking the secret where it belongs. He doesn't linger. Whoever left the envelope might be nearby, not to harm him, but to watch what he does next. Arthur backs away step by step, eyes never leaving the glowing window, knowing he's just been guided into a deeper corridor of the story. Then the light clicks off, sudden, final, like someone saying, "That's enough for tonight." The window turns black again, cold and deep. Arthur stands still, the way you do when a song stops mid-note. He thinks of the 3 tally marks on the frame and the shadowy figure in the photo. 2 small pieces, now connected by an invisible line stretching back to 1972. Arthur realizes the unsettling truth isn't the silhouette behind the curtain. It's that someone knew he would come, knew he would look up, and knew he would understand. Arthur walks home slower than he came, not from age, but from the weight of a question. His hand grips the notebook, as if the wind could flip a page and steal the truth away. Streetlights pass behind him one by one, like punctuation in a long sentence. He thinks of 1972, interviews, sleepless nights, the confidence of being young. He once believed he did everything he could. Now he wonders if he only did everything he could within the limits of what he was willing to see. And what he wasn't willing to see is knocking again, softly, steadily, at 3 in the morning. On his porch, Arthur pauses and looks up at the sky. Thin clouds drift, and a few faint stars hold their place like patient witnesses. He doesn't know who is guiding him or where this trail truly leads, but he knows why it chose him, because he's the one man left who remembers 1972 the right way. Arthur presses the notebook to his chest like a promise. Then he exhales, slow and quiet, as if speaking to the town itself. "All right, I'm looking." Back home, Arthur doesn't turn on many lights. He lets a single table lamp glow, just enough to read the paper, just enough to keep the shadows in the corners. The torn photograph lies on the wood like a small wound in time. He rests a fingertip on the edge, gentle, as if the memory might crumble. His eyes return to the figure in the blue coat behind the woman, and something inside him tightens. Not logic, but instinct. There are certain stances you don't remember with your mind, you remember them with your body, and his body tells him that figure has been closer than he ever wanted to believe. Close, right here in this town. Arthur flips the photo over, slow as turning a page you're afraid to read. On the back, there's faint pencil and a small stamp, too crisp to be old. He leans in. It's the Whispering Pines Library archive mark, the kind used for stored materials, not family albums. His heartbeat stays calm, but heavy. This didn't drift in from the past by accident. Someone pulled it from the town's kept memories recently and placed it where Arthur would find it at the exact right moment. And if they can access the archive, they don't just know about 1972. They know how to touch it, how to wake it up. Arthur steps onto his porch with the notebook pressed to his chest, standing beneath the small, warm light like it's his own private lighthouse. The street is empty. Pine branches whisper. Old wood creaks softly under the wind. He thinks of Marjorie, of the locked cabinets, of a hand familiar enough to remove a photograph without raising suspicion. He doesn't call anyone. He doesn't rush to accuse. He just looks into the dark the way you look at someone behind a curtain, waiting to see if they move. Then he speaks, barely above a breath. If you want me to look up, tomorrow I'll start where this town keeps its memories. And somewhere in his mind, the next chapter already has a name: The Stopped Watch. You're listening to Midnight Action Stories, thrilling crime tales after dark. If you enjoy these late-night missions, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, and drop your questions or theories in the comments below.